Thank you all so much for joining us today for the Nuventive navigation training for IE reviewers. And so the people that are here on this session would be someone that holds a role as an IE representative, a department head, a direct supervisor, a dean, VP, anyone like that. So if you, and I'm familiar with everyone that's attending, but if you're watching this session, you don't hold one of those roles, this training might still be helpful for you so that you're aware of what is happening kind of on the other end of the reviewer role if you do serve as an IE author, so that you know how the review is conducted, some of the resources that they look at, that kind of stuff. So today in this training, we'll be covering the assessment review process at A&M-Commerce. We will be covering completing a new rubric review for a program or unit, reviewing completed revisions and finalizing a rubric, monitoring submission status through reports, monitoring the review and approval status through reports, some IE and Nuventive resources, and then hopefully at the end, if we have any questions, we'll have time for Q&A and kind of a closeout that Tracy will be taking us through. So as you are all likely familiar with, A&M-Commerce chose the Nuventive Improvement Platform as its online assessment tool. This platform creates a digital repository of assessment data that is easily accessible and web-based. It automatically saves and builds that repository, and then it maintains a historical record of assessment data. So hopefully, the screen and this login button all look very familiar to y'all. As a reviewer, you know that the Nuventive Improvement Platform can easily generate a report of annual assessment data in a clear, easy to read, and concise 4-column format. This report, which we can also go through today if you would like a refresher on how to run it, will outline your student learning outcomes or goals, your assessment methods for those SLOs or goals, the results, and then our action use of results. And so as a reviewer, you would have up or run this report, print, however you prefer to kind of operationalize your review, and have this up as your resource for completing the rubric. And so this will be what you're looking at to see if they do indeed have the SLO or goal listed, if the assessment cycles are updated, if they have results reported, if they're reported under the correct date, that kind of information. So A&M-Commerce uses a multi-layered review and approval process to ensure the timely submission of quality assessment reports. These reports can be used to document student outcomes and institutional effectiveness for the university. The process all starts here on the left with our IE author. They enter the annual assessment results and they update the assessment plan for the coming year. So this is what we wanted and aim to have done by September 1st. And so by entering that information, there is not a submit button. By simply creating the information, putting it in the system, it is then available for our department heads, our direct supervisors, and our IE representatives to conduct their own review. And so those people in the first reviewer role would review the annual IE assessment 4-column report that we just looked at. They would complete a review rubric, marking any requests for revisions. If there are any requests for revisions, they would send the IE author an email directly. So that is not a communication that is supported through Nuventive at this time, unfortunately. But you would just email the IE author directly to let them know that revisions have been requested. So it's kind of this gray area here. If there are no revisions requested, or at the time that the revisions are supplied, you could mark the rubric as approved. And then you would have that final review decision as approved or not approved. And so our IE representatives and our department head direct supervisors all complete the same level of review simultaneously. And so this level of review is what we would like to see completed by September 15th. At that point in time, with that review being completed, we would then move on to the Dean VP review. And so they would review the annual IE assessment 4-column report. They would also review the completed rubrics of the department head, direct supervisor, and the IE representative. And so that's why it's so important to have these done in a timely manner before the dean or VP begins the review. And then they're also empowered to approve or request revisions. And so if revisions are requested, they would just email the IE author directly again. And then they would go through and mark that final review decision as well as approved or not approved. And so this is what we are aiming to have done by the 29th, by the end of this month. After that point, the department receives and reviews all completed annual assessment reports. The MyLeo login has not changed. So if you are used to accessing Nuventive through MyLeo, that will remain the same. It's just on our end, the IE, our department webpage, and I'm sure many of y'all have seen the same thing. That's been updated. We have a new look and feel. So this is the new Nuventive login button. So if you are used to going to Nuventive through the IE website, you would go there and then look for this gold button. All right. So whenever you log in as a reviewer, and y'all will not have as many programs or units as we do, but you might have several as a reviewer because you will be reviewing multiple for your college, your division, your unit, whatever that might be. So you would start by coming up to our kind of program bar here, and you can either use the down arrow or just click in the bar itself, and it will show you all of the programs or units that you are responsible for reviewing. So if I am responsible for providing a IER review for our academic program plan sample 3, I would just navigate to that program and click on it. Once it's pulled up, you'll pull up to this home page here. And so what you'll see, again, is the student learning outcomes listed in this left-hand column. You'll have here the number of assessment methods, the number of results, number of those results with standard of success not met, those numbers of results that are marked inconclusive, and then any of those results that are requiring action. So as a reviewer, it might be helpful, if you wanted to come in here and filter by planned assessment cycle. If you wanted to only look at the information that was marked for 21-22 assessment, you are able to do that using these filters. Then you're also able to come into the reporting period and see those items that would have been reported for the 2020-2021 results cycle as well. It's just kind of a handy little use of those filters there. But as a reviewer, what you would want to do first is navigate to where you would actually complete your review. And so that's done under the main menu. So you'd come up here to these 3 horizontal white bars and click on those. And then you'd come down to plan, review, and approval. And so you'll see that it expands because it has this little black arrow here. Once you click that, you'll see there all of the available reviewer roles that you have. So if you are reviewing for technology management, for example, and you're the IE representative, you will locate technology management, plan your programs, and then come down to the IE representative here. If you are reviewing for organizational leadership and you are maybe the department head, you do the same thing. You'd locate organizational leadership up here in our program listing, and then come to the direct supervisor department head review level. For this example, I am serving as the IE representative. So again, I came to the main menu, plan, review, and approval, and then came down to the IE representative review. But what I've done is navigate from my sample unit to the completed 2019-2020 review. So it will help to kind of provide that orientation. If you look up here in this left-hand corner, you'll be able to see, just like I do, y'all complete a lot of reviews for a lot of programs or units, so it might be difficult to keep up with what's been done so far or not. And so coming in and noticing that date here will help kind of orientate you to if you still need to provide a review for this program or not. So to provide a new review, you just navigate over to this green plus sign. You could also click this drop-down menu and come down to 2021 and do the same thing. I prefer the plus sign because it's just one click. So you'd hit your green plus sign there. Wait for it to come up. So it looks like they've updated our systems. I hope y'all saw, mine did not come up right away. So I did need to click the plus sign and then navigate to that cycle date that's up here. But you'll now see here that we have the cycle 2020 to 2021, which is the result period that we're providing the review for. So what I have here is a blank IE our department review. And so you'll see it doesn't have any of that basic demographic information, such as my name, the date, my initial review decision, and then these white bars here are incomplete as well. So I have not provided a review of the student learning outcome, the assessment methods, the results, or the action use of results. So we're just going to work our way through this, and we're going to start with adding our name and the date. Since you don't know your review decision just yet, you don't have to complete this, and it's usually best not to in case you forget to go back and change it afterwards, but this can be updated after you have completed your review. And so to actually get to those items where you'll be completing the review, the student learning outcome, the assessment methods, the results or actions of results, or if you are joining us from a support unit, this would say goals instead of student learning outcomes. You just click that little arrow there to expand it. And so you'll see here all of those rubric items for which we are going to be completing a review. And so each of these have, normally 5 to 6 rubric items. And so you'll see here as we continue to expand all of these, that they have them all listed and they are all aligned with this header information up here. So all of these items will relate to the review of the results. All of these items here will relate to the review of actions, use of results. So just scrolling back up to the top to our student learning outcomes. So what we will do then is come over here to this IE assessment 4-column report and click on that. And so what you might notice whenever you log in, because I am completing a review for the 2020-2021 cycle, is that as you scroll down in this 4-column report that you'll be using to complete your review, what we are commonly running across here is that our reporting period maybe hasn't updated. Our results maybe haven't added directly to this, and so please don't get worried if you see that. It is a simple update to come up here and click this refresh button. So as I hover over it, you'll see that the report was last run in April 2021. And so we didn't have 2020, 2021 results reported then. So if you just click that update button and scroll back down, and I hope this works, you'll see here that now we have our reporting period of 2020 to 2021 and the accompanying data. A quick side note, just because y'all are reviewers and so you might run into this problem with some of your authors, is that we have had some authors who have gone in and edited and overwritten their 2019-2020 results instead of adding new 2020 to 2021 results. And so whenever we add our results as an IE author, what we want to do is create a new result entry rather than overwriting a previous result entry. And so one, quick workaround that we have found on this until we can kind of get, everyone to operationalize in the same way. As you saw, whenever I first looked at my report, it didn't actually have this 2020 to 2021 data. It would have only had my 19 to 20 data. And so if you have an author that has reached out to you to let you know that this is an issue that they've experienced, or they realize, oh my gosh, I overwrote everything, all my 2019 data is gone, you can come into your reviewer role to see if you do have an old report. And if you do, you are able to download that or print it for them prior to hitting that refresh button for you to conduct your review. So that's just something to keep in mind. We have, had a couple of people let us know that. And so we have been able to come in here, especially on the IER department side, and download that older data for them and send that to them so that it doesn't have to be completely recreated. So, we have here our IE assessment 4-column report, pardon me. So I like to have things digital. I don't like to have too much paper because just like y'all, I always have a lot going on. It's hard to keep track of, but I do like to have things on multiple screens. So what I might do is come in and download this and then open as a PDF and put it on my second screen. So I can have my rubric review going over here in full screen so I'm able to see it. And then on my secondary screen, I can have the IE assessment 4-column report up so I'm able to track my results and data that I'm providing the review for. Some people do like to work from hard copy, which is totally fine. You can come in and print that as well. Or if you're comfortable working on this 50-50 split screen, and so you can change between those using these buttons up here, then you can just work through your review like this. And so that is perfectly fine as well. So as we were working through, keeping in mind that in this first farthest left column, we have our student learning outcomes or goals. And so the lines here with the first item that you're going to come across is your SLOs. And so as we're working through, you would want to provide a review of every SLO. This rubric, is not necessarily reviewing the SLOs, assessment methods, results, actions, and results for only SLO 1. This is providing a review of all of these student learning outcomes. And so you'd want to make sure that you're going through all the information that you have available to you in the 4-column report as you're providing your review. So just as a sample, I'm just going to complete mine, a little quickly here and come through and click acceptable. One thing I do want to point out, I think y'all may have seen, but here I have this yellow box that has popped up. has given me a hint of some of the stuff that I might be looking for as I'm reviewing the specific rubric item. So my item is SLOs are linked to and aligned with the college, division, and/or university strategic priorities and goals. And so what we're looking for here is to make sure that each SLO is mapped to one or more priority of the university and the college strategic plans. So I might click acceptable there, but then realize I don't actually know, if they're mapped, if that mapping is complete. One way to tell that is by closing out and coming to the completed mapping here. And so you're able to find the various maps that are located over here. If my sample was organized under a college, I would have a college strategic plan here to look at, what mapping has been completed and make sure that I'm mapped to at least one or more marketable skill or college or division level goal. So it's just something to keep in mind. We have lots of handy resources over here. And you'll also be able to access, I believe, your older reviews as well if you wanted to remind yourself of something or to see if there have been growth, or maybe last time you marked something as acceptable and they really went above and beyond in response to that. So you want to mark that as excellent this time, however you want to complete that review. And so I want to point out, I've marked all of these here. They're all complete. They're all marked acceptable, but this little bar hasn't completed. If I come in and add text, it's going to fill in green. However, adding a comment there is not required if you mark everything as acceptable or excellent. If I were instead to come in and mark this as revise, that may be I'm asking for a revision here. So I do want to leave a comment that if I've marked something as revised, that gives more guidance on what I'm looking for there. And so same thing with our assessment methods. Now, as I'm coming through the assessment methods, something that we noticed frequently in our review last year as the IER department is that maybe our assessment methods, this item here maybe hadn't been completed because people hadn't necessarily built out the assessment method description as richly as we would have liked or were looking for. And so maybe it was difficult to detect alignment between the method and the assessment method types, or maybe the assessment method type, this bolded item here hadn't been selected, that maybe there was a little bit of a deficit there and the specifics of how the results are obtained in the assessment method. So those kind of things, so that might help to keep in mind as we're kind of moving forward through our review. But a lot of the new information, especially for those programs and units that have been through a review cycle last year, is going to be here in the results and the action use of results. Because what we did do last cycle, we did build out the SLOs and goals, we built out the assessment method. So unless there's a new SLO goal or assessment method, a lot of those will kind of remain the same throughout the cycle. So what we are likely going to be providing the deepest, most robust review on is the results and the actions use of results here. And so what we would be looking for each of these items, that we're looking for results stated during the reporting year. And so that would be making sure that the reporting period is correctly identified as 2020 to 2021. If you are coming in to conduct your review and you see that someone has overwritten all of their 1920 results, that might be something that you mark as revise and ask them to go back in and add those 1920 results. In these results are aligned with SLOs, assessment methods, and standard of success. We're looking to make sure that the results that are reported align and make sense with what has been laid out in the assessment plan. In the provide the sample population size, we are looking for that N equals that y'all just saw pop up. So we want to know how many students were assessed, how many staff completed the survey, how many faculty completed the training, that kind of stuff. We're looking for that N equals number there. Here we're looking for our descriptive data. So we do want those numerical results. It's often helpful to think of our standard of success. So if our standard of success is looking at a percentage completion here, it's often helpful to phrase your results in similar language. So 85% of students will correctly answer 7 out of 10 exam questions. And so here we're talking about 55% of our students were rated, so maybe our alignment is a little bit off, but we do have those numerical descriptions here. So 55% of the students, let's just go ahead and say that they correctly answered the exam question. So this is down from 92%. but we do have that numerical discussion there and those numerical results. I'm going to go ahead and mark that as revised to remind myself to go back in and update that. We're looking here for discussions of results that are clear, concise, objective, and substantive. So in this situation where we saw a decrease of 92 to 55%, we may want to have a more robust discussion included here of why that happened, what may have occurred to cause that decrease, that kind of stuff. Provide some information that we may not know otherwise, keeping in mind, or you would want your author, to provide information that we don't know otherwise, keeping in mind that you as a reviewer may not be the only person reviewing this. And so although you are familiar with their programs or their operations, that the DNVP may not be as closely familiar, us and IER may not be as familiar, and our SAC COC reviewers will not be as familiar. Here we are looking for results conclusions that were identified, that results conclusions identified align with the results provided. So does the data support the conclusion of standard of success met, not met, or inconclusive? It's also worth noting that inconclusive should only be selected in cases where the results were unable to be conducted. So that's pretty common with what we have going on right now, the pandemic. If the results were unable to be conducted or collected, or the assessment's unable to be conducted, you might suggest that they include a change that allows them to conduct the assessments in the future. If it was a paper survey or paper assessment that's given, maybe consider moving to a digital assessment that can be emailed to our graduating students, something like that. And then finally, this last item relates heavily to documents that have been related in the results. And so you'll see those as a blue hyperlink, hopefully better spelled than I did here. But you would be able to click on those and open them and look at them more closely as a download. And so they will open down here, not necessarily in a tab. But related documents are not required. But if someone does include those, you'd want to look at them, make sure that they contain information that's relevant to the results and support the results conclusion. And so again, noting that bar up there does not complete until I've added text here. So this is something, in that example I gave up here where my standard of success was 85%, but my assessment was an oral exam, but my results talk about internships. You might want to have marked that as revised and leave a note that the alignment for this SLO doesn't make sense with the standard of success or assessment type. So you're prompting the author to go back in and check to make sure that that is in fact the results that should have been reported there. And so one of our final items, rubric blocks that we would expect to see some updates included on for this cycle is our action use of results. And so keeping in mind that an action plan is required in cases where the conclusion is standard of success not met or inconclusive. If we have all standard of success met, trying to find an example real quick. We have all of our standard of success met for someone who is really, knocked out of the park. They have hit every single standard, all of their conclusions are met and all that, then they may not have any actions use of results, because again, that's only required in times where it is not met or inconclusive. But again, you would just come through and click through these and completing your review. So, action plans are presented when needed. So again, we're looking for anything that is marked inconclusive or not met that we would expect to see an action plan. Actions are clearly based on assessment results and they are recited in the action. So we want to create there that alignment of them talking about, we are, taking this action, we're using the results in this way because our students, dropped from 92 to 55%, or because we had only one faculty member complete the feedback survey, whatever that is, we want to complete and draw that alignment there to help support closing the loop on the assessments. In our item here, actions are aligned with learning outcomes. Again, we want to come through and draw that alignment of all the way across. So our actions of results make sense with our conclusion, make sense with our assessment method types, and our assessment method description, and then they make sense with our SLOs. And so we want to have that alignment, that clear line here all the way across. Action plans are specific and clear. We want to know who's responsible for the action, what is being done, when it's being implemented, where it's being implemented, how it's being implemented, that kind of information. And so those are the kind of tidbits that you would be looking for as you're reviewing, that fourth column there. And then here, the report clearly demonstrates closing the loops. We want to make sure in our review that our authors have gone full circle, that they have identified a need, that they have collected, administered the assessments, collected the data, analyzed the data, and now they're recommending changes or making changes based off the feedback there. And so once this is complete, you've come through, every single bar is gold or green if you have left comments because you've asked for revisions. And so we want to make sure that we leave that clear guidance there. So it's worth double checking that these are all done. You would come back up here. Since I did request revisions, you would want to come to revisions requested. I might leave a comment that revisions, I don't remember where I requested our revisions. Revisions have been requested in SLOs and results. And so sometimes that's helpful for the IE authors here to provide them, a little bit clearer guidance on where to look for those revisions. You can also copy and paste the comments that you left in the specific rubric areas up here if you would like. So I've come through, I've marked my initial review decision as revisions requested. I'm going to save my review. So at this point, as a reviewer, now that I'm done and I've requested my revisions, I'd get onto my Outlook email. I would email Tracy and say, hey, Tracy, thanks so much for completing, the results for the academic program plan sample 1. Please know that I've requested revisions, yada, 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 however you want to word it, and let her know that there are revisions that are being requested and work that needs to be done. Ask her to go back in, complete that revision. It's often helpful if you give your IE author a deadline to complete those revisions by. And then, they'll go in and get it done. Hopefully they will email you back right away within a day or two to let you know those revisions have been requested. At that time, I'm sure you have been coming in to complete reviews for lots of other programs. And so now we need to navigate back to that completed rubric. So I'm going to let this pull up just so that I can get out of that for a second and show that navigation back again. So now Tracy's email means that Allison, I've completed the reviews. This is it. This is the one. Great. So what I'm going to do is navigate back to that program from my drop-down list of programs or units that I'm reviewing. I will navigate back to plan review and approval, and then I will navigate back to my role. Here we go. So I also want to point out here that we are going to start to see these reviews stack up on top of each other. So here's our 1920 review. Here's our 2021 review. You'll see that I still have revisions requested, but Tracy's made those revisions. And so I'm able to go back in by clicking this ellipses here. As a reviewer, you will have this edit option. So you would click edit, and then you'll see that brings you right back to where your rubric is. And so again, you would want to come over here to your 4-column report. You would want to update it to make sure that you're seeing those revisions that have been completed as requested, run through so that it all looks great. I'm so happy with everything. And what we're not going to do, we are not going to come in and change our rubric. And we're not going to change any of this information. We're not going to delete any of the comments that we made because we want to have that record of what was requested and that record of the assessment cycle, the institutional effectiveness at work. All we're going to do is come in and add the date that we're providing our final review and then mark our final review decision as approved. If you run into a situation where you've requested revisions and are having trouble getting those and you have reached a point in the cycle where the rubric needs to be available for the next level of review and you're not able to get those, you can come in and mark this as not approved. That isn't the ideal outcome that we want to see. We would like to have that communication open so that revisions are able to be completed in a timely and complete manner. So you would just mark that with your final review decision, hopefully approved, and then just make sure we save it. And so if I back out and leave, you'll see here in this example that we do have a final review decision of approved. And so this review would be considered complete for the cycle. At that point, as a maybe as an IER reviewer, a department head, you would let your dean or VP know that that is done. Or, the expectation again is that by September 16th, they are available to go in and start completing their own reviews. And so you could also just let it sit there and be available for them at that time. Y'all might also have some questions from deans or VPs, and so I do want to cover this real quick, just in case a dean or VP decides to watch this video to kind of assist with navigating to their review. But as a dean VP, again, you would come to the main menu and come down to the dean VP review. What I do want to point out is that as a dean VP, you won't have those rubric items down here to review. Instead, what you would be looking at would be the IE column, IE assessment for form report. One day I will get it right the first time. And then another resource that you would have available to you is the most recently completed review. And so those do update, at midnight and 12 o'clock noon. And so the one that I just completed in this training isn't available yet, but it will be available after midnight tonight. But you would have available to complete your review, the column, the 4-column report, the previously completed reviews. And so we would do something very similar where you would come in and have your name. You would include the date. You would look at those resources. You might leave some comments that, you might leave a comment that assessments are appropriate to SLOs and show growth, in which case you're likely to leave an initial review decision of approved. Or you might leave a comment, saying that might leave a comment saying something like the results description needs to be more robust, in which case your initial review decision is likely to be revisions requested. In that case, again, you would just email the IE author to let them know that revisions have been requested, or if you are approving it on the first go, you would just mark that as approved and then save. And so whenever you back out, you're able to see that completed review for this cycle. Our deans, VPs, and IE representatives also have access to additional tracking reports under the reporting units. And so you should have access to, depending on which college or division you are part of, you may have access to additional reports up here. So these would be organized under reporting units, and then you would be able to see your assessment units organized under assessment units. And so just as an example, if I belong to Kastner, if I was an IE representative, dean VP, a department head under this college, I'll be able to navigate to the Dean Kastner reporting unit here to log in. And what I'd see here is some summary reports. And so I'd be able to see which of my programs or units have completed or might still need to complete their SLOs or goals for this cycle. And so I can filter those by the planned assessment cycle here. We also have available the assessment method summary. So we can filter that by the same date information and be able to see which of my programs or units, depending on if you are from a support unit, still need to add some assessment methods. And then we also have our results summary. And so this one we would want to filter by the result reporting period. And then we're able to see which of our programs or units are still missing results or would need to report results. And so those would all be delineated by these little red flags, as we call them. And so that would be a helpful way as a reviewer to track this information here. We also have available here under our main menu, our plan submission status page. That's what I'm bringing up here real quick. And so we have under this first tab, our SLOs, goals, and assessment method status. We have our academic support plans. And so this column will list the academic program or support unit for the reporting period. For the reporting unit, pardon me. We have listed here the role column. So you'll be able to see what role it is for these people over here, first name, last name, and then contact information if you need to contact them. And then finally, kind of the meat of these reports, the numbers of SLOs and the numbers of assessment methods. So we'd be able to see through here any of these that need to have SLOs or goals added, or if the number of assessment methods is fewer than the number of SLOs or goals. And that would show us, what would still need to be added in our review. We have this results and action status. Oh dear. We will get in touch with our support team to kind of see what's going on with that report there. But unfortunately, that is a helpful one to track in a similar method. the status of the results completion. And so we would have, the same columns. We'd have our support plans, our role, the last name, first name of the contact role here. And then we'd also have these red flags over here that would tell us instead what results are missing or what results still need to be added. And so we'll get in touch to make sure that that report is working for y'all. In this example here for SLO goals mapping status. So again, same information. We would have our academic support plans, our role, last name, first name, and then what we'd have over here is our number of SLOs or goals for that academic or support plan, and then any of those that were not mapped. And so this 0 would just show us what we'd want to make sure the mapping was completed on. So we'd be able to contact our IE authors based off that to let them know what kind of information was still needed. And then we also have here under our main menu, this review approval status. And so these are very helpful reports. We were experiencing some issues with these last week, and then after testing them, they worked, but I'm hoping that they are working again. But these are really helpful reports that will show you which of these have been reviewed by the, by the role down here. And so these will be updated soon to reflect our 21-22 or 2020-2021 PREMI assessment cycle information. But you would be able to come down to these roles down here to see which of these have been completed and which of these have reviews that are still outstanding, may have been marked as needing revisions, will have been marked as approved, that kind of information there. So as you saw me do, as I was completing that sample rubric review, we want to make sure that we always save our work. So we tell our students that, and then we want to do the same thing, that we always save our work as we're working through our rubric. Unfortunately, we are not able to save rubrics that are only partially completed. So at the time that you are working through a rubric review, it is very helpful to sit down and make sure that you have the time to be able to commit to completing that rubric review. Because getting halfway through it, unfortunately, won't save, and it might sit there long enough that it's going to log you out of Nuventive as well. So we do have these resources and some additional support items for using Nuventive for reviewers. So I want to point out again that our Nuventive login has changed. Our Nuventive login button finally has changed. It's now this gold button here. But as a reviewer, we do have available this reviewer manual. So this will take you through the various roles and a lot of the steps and information that we covered in this training. It's just in a PDF format rather than a live training format. We also have available under this assessment bar here our instructions for annual assessment reporting. And so those would include the instructions required of our IE reviewers, our deans, VPs, that kind of stuff. We have sample reports if you would like to see examples of certain SLOs, goals, results, assessment methods, that kind of stuff built out to maybe have an example to compare your program or unit to as you're looking through. And then we also have some additional internal and external assessment resources as well. We also have these new snapshot videos that we have created. And so these are short, 1 minute to 1.5 minute navigation videos. So very similar to this training again, where it's largely navigational, that cover a lot of information that is maybe more relevant to our authors. But we do have this one here at the bottom, the locate our rubric feedback and any requests for revisions. That might serve as a helpful reminder for a reviewer on how to locate or get to where you complete your review.
Yes, we do have a QR code that if you had a question or needed some help, instead of sending an email, you could send us one of these Laserfish forms using, and I posted in the chat, a form to request help. So that's one more resource for you to track us down and allow us to help you in any way needed. And you have our email addresses, and then also the general IE at tamuc.edu. So there's your form. All right. So just as you are working to provide continuous improvement, we also like to have opportunities for our own continuous improvement. So we ask you to fill out a training evaluation. You can use the QR code, or you can use the link in the chat for that. Oh, excuse me. Lots of resources on the website, and then also available directly through us. So